Really excited to be here and share a bit about the program and outcome measurement with you all. I'm the co-founder of the program along with Gina, and my main responsibility was in outcome measurement and making sure that everything we do as an organization incorporates student feedback, student voice, and is also aligned um, with the success we're having and then the areas for improvement that we need to think about, and so that we're constantly improving. And so, really, the main way we think about outcome measurement is looking at outcomes with all three of our stakeholders. And so, the three stakeholders we have are the college student mentors, the high school students, and then the high schools themselves, the actual faculty and teachers at the high schools that we work with. So, as far as tracking outcomes for mentors, we want to look at pre and post surveys that assess whether or not, one, they're learning as mentors from our program and they're gaining leadership skills that will prepare them for success in their future careers, because we're focused on serving mentors as much as mentees, because we really invest a lot into developing their leadership potential and their ability really to connect with students from all backgrounds. And so we want to make sure we're helping them develop as much as they're helping the students develop. And then additionally, we want to see if they feel like their voice is being incorporated into the program. And if they feel like we're living up to what we say, which is that we're student driven, and that mentors really take ownership of the program, because we know that mentoring comes best from close others. And so mentees most relate to mentors who are of a similar age and similar background. And so we want to also assess with the mentors, are we actually having them lead the programming, or is that just something that we think is happening and it's not actually the case? So the two main ways we do that is pre and post surveys that are aligned with the kind of outcomes we want mentors to have at the end, which are feeling stronger as communicators, feeling like they can speak better in public, feeling like they have good leadership skills, those things. And then we also take anonymous feedback surveys at the end of every semester that assess their degree of feeling like we really give them feedback into the program. And so they're basic questions that just help us understand if what we're doing allows them to feel like they have a voice in the program. And they also see, are they willing to come back, and we can track retention that way. And then, just in general, like, are there areas for improvement in the way that we're serving mentors? So that's the mentor bucket. And then as far as students, we look at tracking the key metrics that we're looking to improve, which is social emotional learning and then academic development. And so we use pre and post surveys as well, that we actually worked with the Virginia Mentoring Partnership to design based on the outcomes that we're trying to create for students. So things like growth mindset, things like the ability to deal with conflict, the ability to communicate with others and speak in public, those kind of key social emotional skills that we know are important for student development, both in high school and at the college level. Things that if they have mastery of going into college, they'll fare much better than peers who might not have those skills. And so we design those surveys with an expert in outcome evaluation based on validated metrics and scales that other mentoring programs and other researchers developed, that we can then use in our program because we know that they work and that they actually measure the things that we're looking at. So that's a really main piece of advice for anyone who's looking to design mentoring evaluation, is really look at what other experts have done, and to the extent you can, use those metrics because they're evaluated and they're vetted to work and to measure the things you want. So that's kind of how we measure social and emotional learning. And then as far as the academic component, we're also looking at those typical key metrics you'd look at for students, things like grades, the amount of APs and like high level electives they're taking, types of colleges they're applying to. And then we also want to see, is our college guidance working? So we look at the college acceptances, the schools that they're getting into, the financial aid packages they're offered, where they end up going, those sorts of things. So that's kind of how we look at tracking outcomes for students. And then the third piece is tracking outcomes with our high school partners, the actual teachers and college counselors that we're trying to serve at those schools. And so the way we do this is through continuous feedback loops with those partners. And so every week we check in with them after our mentoring sessions and make sure that, one, they believe the session was effective, based on their experience and knowledge of the students. And then two, what areas we can do to improve if things weren't necessarily going the way they wanted. And then the third thing is, what do they want us to work on next? Like, what are they seeing in students that maybe we're not there every day with them like they are? And so maybe we don't see certain needs that they have that the teachers see. And so we get that feedback as well. And then at the end of the year, we also collect just global feedback about the program from the schools that we work with. And so we created a survey that kind of looks at multiple areas of feedback for our program. And we have both teachers that we work with, the college counselors, and then the administrators at the school fill out those surveys so that we can see how we're doing in their eyes. And then the next thing that we do is we want to constantly adapt our program based on what's actually happening throughout the year. So student feedback throughout the year, and to make sure that it's actually aligned with student voice. And so the main way we do that is through implementation tracking surveys. So we have a standard survey that mentors fill out at the end of every session that tracks how well that session went based on the goals of the session. And then did we achieve those goals? And then also just, do we feel like this was effective? And what other feedback do the mentors have for us? And so that's a standard survey they fill out every time. And so in between sessions, we can see how the sessions are going and what areas of improvement we have. So for instance, if they thought the session on growth mindset maybe wasn't very effective, then we'd say, okay, well, let's spend another week on growth mindset and try to shore up that gap. Or if they thought the session on growth mindset really went really well, we're ready to transition to the next topic. And so we would adapt. And then another thing we do is mentors check in with their mentees every session and make sure that talk to them about the needs that they have. And so we provide feedback loops for mentors during training sessions to let us know the skills that their mentees want to work on next. And so they can bring up those things that mentees want to focus on, and we can start addressing those. And then the third component that we do to adapt our program to make sure that it's aligned with student voice is we have mentors co-design mentoring sessions with our director, Gina. And so every other week when they are in their training sessions, mentors are actually co-designing the program that we're going to implement with the students because they have the closest relationship with the mentees at the school. And so they're making sure that what we're going to do is aligned with what their mentees want to learn and then how their mentees learn best. And so that's kind of how we see outcome measurement as an organization. We look at tracking outcomes throughout the year through those pre and post surveys, and then also within the year through implementation surveys and continuous feedback loops.
Thank you. Yeah, and a great example of that is last semester, mentor felt like there was a little bit of an imbalance of power between the mentors and the mentees. And she wanted the mentors to be a little bit more equal with the students that we were working with. And so we talked in detail about how can we go about making sure that the mentors are relatable and on the same level with the students. And she came up with a number of fantastic ideas. We went in next week, we took that approach, and she felt a lot more comfortable sharing her experiences as a first-gen low-income college student because she didn't feel as though she was preaching to the students. She felt as though she was openly sharing with the students. And that's something that we do throughout the entire year, regardless of whether it's college counseling or the social and emotional learning piece.